What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Alright, so before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to Layla for her contribution to the channel. And Layla said, thanks for the best politics and GOAT vids ever, babes. Shout out to Layla, big time supporter of this channel, supporter of the Patreon. If you're not subscribed to the Patreon, please subscribe to the Patreon. There's already about 220 I believe videos on the Patreon. It's only $2 per month. I will be uploading on the Patreon today. And on the Patreon, maybe we'll talk about stuff I can't talk about on YouTube for obvious reasons. So go over to the Patreon if you're able to. And so this game, I kind of had a feeling, man. I mentioned it in my video talking about Game 1, and I mentioned it over on Mahari Sports Podcast on Friday, I think it was, when I was over there. I mentioned it then. I had a feeling like the first game was not truly indicative of the talent differential between these two teams. Denver, obviously, when you consider the fact that they just went through a grueling 7-game series, which went down to the wire. And it's not that necessarily that series was particularly defensive battle, a la Heat Knicks of the late 90s, but it was a frenetic offensive series. You know what I'm saying? So you take that and you couple the fact that it was up and down 7-game. Yeah, you could factor that Denver was tired. Okay, and they looked tired. So that's why, I even though it was a big victory for the Clippers, I was fearing, because I do root for the Clippers, I'm not going to lie. I was fearing, but I'm be fair though, you know what I'm saying? I was fearing that the Clippers would sort of come into Game 2 and be blitzkrieg, and they were. Denver led huge. They led wire to wire throughout the entire game, the entire playoff game. I think they were up after one 44-25. So the Clippers were playing from behind the entire game. And this was the first time that Denver has led a playoff game wire to wire in 7 years, since they played the pre-championship Golden State Warriors back when Mark Jackson was at the helm, which he should still be. Kawhi Leonard had an uncharacteristically poor shooting night, ineffective, and they did a good job of, shutting him down. Maybe part of it was he had an off night, but you also got to credit Denver for making it tougher on him. They cut down on his ability to get to the basket, and he only shot, I think I read 4 of 17 from the floor. So that was a very poor shooting night from him. Paul George did not make up the difference. He had 22 points, but only shot 7 of 19 himself. And it was the lowest scoring game, I think, of the season for the Los Angeles Clippers. So we're tied at 1-1. I really didn't like how some of the mainstream media was just dismissing Denver totally. I still think the Clippers are going to win this series. But it's not going to be a sweep. I do think Denver's going to... I had Denver winning at least one game. Might be more than one game now. I still think the Clippers are going to win. Maybe it's going to be in 6. The Clippers still could win 3 games in a row because of the Clippers. But I do notice that sometimes the Clippers... This is one thing that bothers me about the Clippers. And it's that oftentimes, if Kawhi Leonard is not having a good game, it seems to me that nobody really steps up. Like, Kawhi has to bail this team out a lot. And one of the things I remember about, and Kawhi gets inevitably compared to Michael Jordan a lot. There's some similarities. But the difference between Kawhi and Mike, and this is just watching Jordan most of his career, is that even when Mike was having a bad shooting night, he could still either rise to the occasion when need be and make important shots, or make smart how can I say this? Make smart decisions with the basketball to get it to guys who can make shots. And then also, whenever Mike was not making shots, there were other guys on the court who could step up and could make shots, like a Tony Kukoc. At times, like Scottie Pippen, a Steve Kerr, sometimes even Luke could get into a little rhythm with that little, 12-foot jumper he had. Bill Winnington, The Clippers, they have guys they have some guys. They have a lot of guys. They're loaded. But one of my things is, it's a difference when you're making a bucket when you're up by 15, 20 points. You know what I'm saying? But it's a whole different matter when your team is in an adversity and they need shots and down the stretch of a close, important playoff game. I know Kawhi Leonard normally can deliver. There are a lot of guys on this team that can score, but they could score with the Knicks, or they could score when, in the first, second, and third quarters. But can they do it in the fourth quarter, in the crunch time? You know what I'm saying? And I'm not just talking about the Clippers. I'm talking about some other guys, AD. You know what I'm saying? There's some guys who I haven't seen them do it in the playoffs for me to be like, okay, yeah, this guy, he can get it done. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing I worry about with the Clippers, but I still think they're going to win this series, man. I give it to them a 6 now. But tell me what you guys think.